Ivy Johnson stood in Kang Tae-Sung's mansion at 2 in the morning, blood sticky between her fingers, and wondered when exactly she'd stop being the kind of woman who called the police. The gun was still warm on the floor. Tae-Sung's chest rose and fell in shallow bursts. Seo-jun's men were 3 seconds from reaching the study door, and Detective Price's voice crackled through a megaphone outside. "This is the FBI, come out with your hands up." Ivy's phone buzzed in her pocket. It was James. Again. The man who'd proposed to her 2 hours ago was now blowing up her phone while she crouched over her dying boss/secret love. But let's rewind. Because every massacre has a beginning, and this one started 6 days before Valentine's Day with a man who didn't have the decency to break her heart in private. If you're already hooked, hit that like button and subscribe right now so you don't miss new episodes. Turn on your notification bell so you'll get notified whenever we post a new episode, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is over there. James Chen arrived at Ivy's apartment with Thai takeout and a speech he'd clearly rehearsed in his Audi on the drive over. She knew before he even sat down. They'd spent 6 months together, and she'd learned to read that particular tightness around his mouth, the look men wore when they'd already made their decision and were just waiting for you to agree it was mutual. "My parents have expectations," James said, pushing pad thai around his plate like a child avoiding vegetables. He wouldn't look at her. "They want someone more aligned with our social trajectory." Aligned. Like she was a business merger that failed due diligence. Ivy kept her face completely still. 6 years as Tae-Sung's assistant had taught her that much. Never let them see the knife go in. "I understand." She didn't. But understanding wasn't required for dismissal. James left his keys on the counter. He didn't take his toothbrush from her bathroom. He'd already moved on weeks ago, maybe months. His body just needed to catch up with his decision. Ivy waited until his Audi pulled out of the parking lot before she opened Instagram. It took her exactly 4 scrolls to find it. "James Chen is engaged to Mina Park," posted 3 hours ago. He'd proposed to Mina this morning and dumped Ivy tonight. Efficient. The same way you'd fire an underperforming employee before the replacement's first day. She stared at the photo. Mina's hand extended, diamond glittering, James's smile wider than Ivy had seen in their entire relationship. The comments were already pouring in. "Beautiful couple, so happy for you both. When's the wedding?" Ivy's hand shook as she closed the app. Her phone buzzed. Pastor Diane, not her real mother, but the woman who'd fostered her for 3 years when she was 12. Pastor Diane checked in every Sunday like clockwork, asking if Ivy was eating, sleeping, and going to church. She never asked if Ivy was happy. Maybe she already knew the answer. Ivy didn't respond. She just sat in her dark apartment, still wearing the dress she'd put on for James, and felt the loneliness press down like a physical weight. The next morning, Ivy arrived at Tae-Sung's penthouse office 17 minutes late. He noticed. Tae-Sung noticed everything. "You're late." He didn't look up from his laptop. His office was all glass and chrome, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Atlanta's skyline like he owned the whole city. "I apologize, Mr. Kang." Ivy set his espresso down. Double shot, no sugar, exactly 160 degrees. She'd spent 6 years learning his preferences down to the second. "Your coffee order was wrong yesterday. Today you're late. Tomorrow what?" His eyes finally lifted to hers, dark and assessing. "Is there a pattern forming, Miss Johnson?" "No, sir." "Good. The Park Industries meeting is at 2. Mr. Tanaka's dinner reservation is confirmed for 7. Your dry cleaning will be delivered by 4. 3 days passed like that. Small mistakes Ivy had never made before. Wrong meeting times. Forgot to confirm a shipment from Seoul. Ordered lunch from the wrong restaurant. Thai instead of Korean. On Thursday afternoon, his Korean associates visited for a business lunch. Ivy served drinks, imported soju, specific brands, while they discussed art acquisitions in hushed Korean. Mr. Kim gestured toward Ivy's retreating back with his glass. "You keep that one around for the view, Tae-Sung, ah?" Tae-Sung's laugh was low and noncommittal. "She's efficient. Keeps the office running. Americans are so casual about these things," Mr. Kim continued in Korean, like Ivy wasn't 10 feet away. "In Seoul, we know how to maintain proper boundaries." Ivy's grip on the serving tray turned her knuckles pale. She understood every single word. She'd spent 2 years learning Korean specifically to be better at her job, to anticipate Tae-Sung's needs before he voiced them. He never knew because she'd never told him. Later that afternoon, her phone buzzed. It was a group text from the Valentine's Club, 5 women she'd known since college. Chelsea typed, "Ladies, Annual V-Day dinner at Canoe this Saturday. Couples only. Can't wait to see everyone's dates. Priya typed back, so excited. Chelsea typed again, Ivy, are you bringing someone? I heard about James. Such a shame. Amber typed, that ring Mina got though. It's gorgeous. No shades intended. Ivy stared at her phone. They knew. Of course they knew. James ran in the same circles. The humiliation sat in her stomach like swallowed glass. On Friday afternoon, Tae-Sung finally confronted her. What is wrong with you? He stood behind his desk, arms crossed. You've been completely off all week. Something in Ivy cracked. Just barely. Just enough that her eyes started stinging. Tae-Sung's expression shifted, not to sympathy, but to visible discomfort. What happened? Ivy debated lying, then decided she had nothing left to lose. My boyfriend broke up with me a few days ago. She blinked back her tears. There's a dinner on Valentine's Day. Everyone's bringing their partners. If I show up alone after what happened with James, they'll... She trailed off. Tae-Sung waited. I need a favor, Ivy said quietly. I need you to come with me as my date. Just for one night. The silence could have cut ice. You want me to pretend to be your boyfriend, just for 2 hours. I'll never ask for anything again. His face hardened. Do you understand how that would look? What people would assume? The unspoken part hung between them like smoke. Forget it, Ivy said. I shouldn't have asked. She turned toward the door and made it exactly 3 steps. Wait. Ivy's hand froze on the door handle. I said, wait. Tae-Sung moved to the window, hands sliding into his pockets. My housekeeper quit 3 days ago. Mrs. Huang. She worked for my family for 12 years and left without notice and no explanation. Ivy didn't understand where this was going. I've interviewed 6 replacements. They're all wrong, too chatty and invasive. He turned to face her. You already know my routines and preferences. The things I need handled discreetly. Understanding hit her like cold water. I'll go to your dinner, Tae-Sung continued. Play the devoted boyfriend. Make them jealous. Give you your moment. Hope flickered in Ivy's chest. In exchange, you work as my live-in housekeeper for 1 month until I find a replacement. You'll have Mrs. Huang's quarters. Maintain the house, prepare meals, handle things I can't trust to strangers. The hope died violently. 1 month of your life for 1 night of mine, he said. Deal? Ivy should have walked out. She should have chosen dignity over desperation. Instead, she heard herself say, 1 month. Then we're even. Then we have a deal, Miss Johnson. What Ivy didn't know was that Mrs. Huang hadn't quit. 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Huang had been cleaning the basement when she'd heard voices. Shouting. Then a sound like a melon hitting pavement. She'd opened the door and seen Tae-Sung standing over a man's body, blood pooling on concrete. Mrs. Huang had run. She didn't pack and didn't say goodbye. She just ran, praying she wouldn't be followed. Tae-Sung let her go, because terrified people don't talk. They disappear. But now he needed someone else. Someone smart enough to handle the work. Someone desperate enough to keep quiet. Someone exactly like Ivy. Valentine's Day arrived wrapped in February cold. Tae-Sung picked her up at 7 sharp in a black Bentley. He stepped out wearing Tom Ford and an expression that could freeze hell. Ivy wore red silk that cost 2 months' salary. Her natural hair was slicked into a low bun. She wore gold hoops and minimal makeup. She looked beautiful and she knew it. Tae-Sung's eyes swept over her once. You look nice. It was the closest thing to a compliment she'd ever gotten from him. The drive to Canoe was silent, except for jazz playing low. When they pulled up to the restaurant, he finally turned to her. Remember, we've been together for 6 months. We met at work, kept it quiet because of professional boundaries. You're in love with me, and what will you do? The same. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm very good at pretending. He offered his arm. Ivy took it. The Valentine's Club had commandeered the private dining room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chattahoochee River, candles everywhere, couples touching, laughing, and performing happiness. Chelsea spotted them first. Her face went through an entire emotional journey: shock, envy, calculation, rage, forced delight. Ivy, oh my God! Chelsea's voice hit that particular pitch women use when measuring each other for weaknesses. And you brought someone. This is Tae-Sung, Ivy said. His hand settled on her lower back, warm and possessive. Kang Tae-Sung, he corrected smoothly, offering Chelsea his hand. I've heard so much about you. He hadn't. Chelsea's husband, Derek, an investment banker with yacht shoes, stood to shake hands. You're in imports, right? Art acquisition, Tae-Sung said. International markets. High-value pieces for private collectors, which was technically true, the same way waste management described organized crime. They sat and ordered drinks. Ivy watched her former friends watch her, trying to reverse engineer how she'd landed this clearly wealthy, clearly powerful, clearly gorgeous man. He was terrifyingly good at this. Priya leaned in. Ivy, how long have you two been seeing each other? 6 months, Ivy lied. We kept it quiet. Professional boundaries. Wait, he's your boss? Amber's eyes went wide. That's so, romantic, Tae-Sung finished, his hand finding Ivy's on the table, his fingers laced through hers perfectly. When you know, you know. Ivy's stomach twisted. This was humiliating in an entirely different way. She was performing intimacy with a man who could barely stand to touch her outside this charade. Dinner arrived and conversation flowed. Chelsea kept steering topics back to James and Mina, their engagement party, their wedding venue, how absolutely perfect they were together. Each mention was a small knife. Then Mr. Tanaka appeared. Ivy saw him before Tae-Sung did. His business associate. She'd served him drinks a dozen times. He was dining across the restaurant with other well-dressed Korean businessmen, and now he was walking directly toward their table. Tae-Sung's posture changed, shoulders back, smile wider. Tae-Sung, ah. Mr. Tanaka clasped his shoulder warmly, speaking rapid Korean. Didn't expect to see you here. Business dinner, Tae-Sung replied in Korean, gesturing vaguely. Nothing formal. Mr. Kim joined them. His eyes landed on Ivy and stayed there. This is unexpected, Mr. Kim said in Korean. She's quite exotic looking. Interesting choice for a business dinner. Tae-Sung's jaw tightened barely. Miss Johnson is my assistant. She's here on a professional capacity. Of course. Mr. Kim's tone made the word sound dirty. They discussed art shipments, customs delays, and payment schedules. Tae-Sung didn't introduce her. He didn't defend her. When they finally left, Mr. Tanaka leaned close and whispered in Korean, quiet but not quiet enough. Beautiful, yes, but you know how these American women are. They don't understand their place. Tae-Sung's slight nod made Ivy's vision go white. Then she smiled, looked directly at Mr. Tanaka, and spoke in absolutely perfect Korean. I understand my place perfectly, and I heard every word you just said. Mr. Tanaka's face drained of color. Tae-Sung's head snapped toward her, shock breaking through his mask. You speak Korean, he said flatly, fluently. For 2 years. Ivy's smile stayed fixed. Thought it might be useful for work. Mr. Tanaka, Mr. Kim retreated without another word. Chelsea stared open-mouthed. Wait, what just happened? Nothing, Ivy said sweetly, just a small misunderstanding. But Tae-Sung's hand had gone rigid in hers, and when he looked at her now, it wasn't with contempt, it was with something sharper, respect, and underneath that the faintest edge of fear. Tae-Sung's mansion sat in Buckhead behind gates and walls. Old, money trying to look like southern plantation architecture. Columns, wraparound porch, magnolia trees that probably cost more than Ivy's car. She'd been here before for documents and packages. Never stayed. Now she stood in the massive foyer at midnight, single suitcase at her feet, while Tae-Sung led her through marble hallways past rooms she'd never seen. They reached a door off the kitchen. The maid's quarters, 10 feet by 12, single bed with white sheets, tiny bathroom, window facing the garage, no art on the walls, nothing personal. A room designed for someone temporary. You start at 5 a.m. Tae-Sung handed her a printed list. 3 pages, single-spaced, house spotless by 7. Meals prepared Korean style. I'll email recipes. I want your complete discretion about what you see or hear. Ivy scanned the list. It had obsessive detail. How he liked towels folded, which cleaning products for which surfaces, exact shower temperature. Discretion, she repeated carefully. I have business associates who visit. Meetings that happen here. You'll see things and hear things. His eyes locked on hers. You're smart enough to understand, and if I'm not, then you won't last long. He turned to leave and paused. Don't get comfortable. 1 month. Then you go back to your life and we never speak of this again. The door closed. The lock clicked from outside. Ivy sat on the bed and felt the walls press in. The first week was designed to break her. Tae-Sung criticized everything. Her cooking wasn't authentic enough. Too much salt in the kimchi jjigae, wrong vegetables in the bibimbap. She cleaned too slowly, walked too loudly, existed too visibly. Mrs. Huang never made this much noise, he'd say, not looking up from his laptop. She bit her tongue, cleaned quieter, and moved through the house like a ghost. He had business meetings at the mansion, men in expensive suits discussing shipments, routes, payment schedules, customs officials who could be bought. Ivy served drinks, refilled glasses, and pretended to be furniture. They spoke in Korean, assuming she didn't understand. She understood everything. The Shanghai shipment clears Tuesday, one man said. Paintings declared as reproductions, real pieces in the frames underneath. Markup? Tae-Sung asked. 300%. Once we move them to private collectors. They were discussing art smuggling and fraud, but Ivy kept her face blank. One night, day 4, maybe 5, she was cleaning the master bathroom when she found it behind the radiator. A small gold earring. It was delicate filigree work and expensive. It had to be Mrs. Huang's. Then she noticed the grout near the bathtub. It was discolored, reddish-brown, staining the white. Her hands started shaking. She pocketed the earring, finished cleaning mechanically, and didn't say a word. That night, lying in her narrow bed, she heard it. Screaming from the basement. Male voice. Begging in Korean. "Please, I'll pay it back, I swear, please." Then silence so sudden it felt like a punch. Ivy lay perfectly still, staring at the ceiling until dawn. She understood exactly what kind of house she was living in. But something was shifting. Tae-Sung watched her. She noticed it in small moments, how his eyes followed her across rooms, how he'd appear in doorways while she worked, silent and observing. One morning, day 8, Ivy fell asleep at the kitchen table. She'd been up until 4 a.m., prepping ingredients. She woke to warmth draped over her shoulders, Tae-Sung's coat, expensive wool, still carrying his body heat. He was gone. The coat smelled like his cologne, cedar and something darker she couldn't name. Ivy folded it carefully, left it on his chair, and pretended it never happened. The next night, he appeared in the kitchen doorway at 9 p.m. "Have you eaten?" Ivy looked up from scrubbing countertops, surprised. "I'll eat after I finish, Mr. Kang. Eat now." She sat at the kitchen island, never the dining table, and ate leftover japchae while he worked on his laptop 10 feet away. They didn't speak. But the silence felt different, less hostile. Mr. Baek noticed first. The elderly driver was 61, quiet, kind in a way that felt out of place in Tae-Sung's world. He'd worked for the family for decades. "He watches you differently now," Mr. Baek said one afternoon, loading groceries. Ivy kept her voice neutral. "He watches everyone, not like this." Mr. Baek glanced toward the house where Tae-Sung stood in his office window, phone to ear, eyes tracking their conversation. "I've known that boy since he was 10. Raised by wolves, that one. His parents taught him the world was divided, people who control and people who submit, and I'm supposed to submit. You're supposed to be invisible." Mr. Baek's smile was sad. "But you're not anymore, are you?" Ivy didn't answer. Because 2 weeks into this arrangement, she'd started noticing things too. The way Tae-Sung's jaw tightened when his associates made comments about her. How he positioned himself between her and other men during meetings. The fact that he'd stopped criticizing her cooking 3 days ago. Small things. The kind of things that made her forget, for seconds at a time, that he'd nodded in agreement when someone called her exotic. The kind of things that made her wonder what the hell she was doing here. One evening, Ivy found him on the balcony. He was staring at Atlanta's skyline, whiskey in hand, shoulders tense. Classical music drifted from inside. "You shouldn't be out here," he said without turning. "Neither should you. It's freezing. I like the cold. Helps me think clearly." Ivy leaned against the railing beside him. "Dangerous territory. What are you thinking about? How many people I've disappointed?" The confession came out raw. "My parents wanted me to marry a Korean, build an empire, preserve legacy. Instead He gestured vaguely at the skyline. "This, a criminal, a businessman who understands that laws are negotiable." He finally looked at her. "My father built everything from nothing, immigrated with $200 and a dream, worked himself to death so I could have this life, and I've turned it into something he'd be ashamed of. Then why do it? Because I'm good at it. Because power is the only thing that matters in this world. Because..." He stopped. "I don't know anymore." The vulnerability caught Ivy off guard. This wasn't the ice-cold boss, this was something else. Something human. "Why did you really learn Korean?" Tae-Sung asked quietly. "I wanted to impress you," Ivy admitted. "I wanted you to see me as more than just efficient. I see you." His hand lifted slowly to her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. That's the problem. He leaned in. Ivy's eyes fluttered closed. His lips were centimeters from hers when he stopped and pulled back like she'd burned him. The month ends soon, Tae-Sung said, voice rough. You should go back to your life, back to being safe. What if I don't want to be safe anymore? You should. He walked inside, leaving her alone in the cold. At week 3 on Wednesday afternoon, Tae-Sung was in a business meeting in his study. Glass doors closed, voices low. Ivy was cleaning the master bathroom, the same bathroom where she'd found Mrs. Hwang's earring. Han Seo-jun arrived without warning. Ivy heard his voice before she saw him, loud, cheerful, filling rooms with presence. Tae-Sung's best friend since university, second in command in the business. The man who smiled too wide and watched people like he was cataloging weaknesses. I need to use the bathroom, Seo-jun called through the study door. Use the guest bath, Tae-Sung replied, distracted. The guest bathroom shared a wall with the master. Thin wall, Ivy heard everything. Seo-jun's voice came through crystal clear. He was on the phone, speaking English. Deliberate choice. Yeah, the shipment records are altered. When they audit him next month, he'll take the fall for everything. He paused. No, he trusts me completely. Too busy playing house with his little maid to notice I'm stealing from under his nose. Ivy froze mid-scrub, heart stopping. If she becomes a problem, I'll handle her too. Same way as the last one, quick and clean. Mrs. Hwang. Seo-jun killed Mrs. Hwang. The warehouse shipment next Tuesday. That's when we move. He'll be there, exposed, and the Yakuza will have their opening. After that, Kang Tae-Sung is finished, and everything he built becomes ours. Ivy's pulse hammered. 3 million split 4 ways once he's dead. We just need to make sure he shows up alone. Seo-jun finished, flushed for appearance, washed his hands while whistling and left. Ivy sat on the bathroom floor, back against the tub, trying to remember how to breathe. She could run, pack her bag, and disappear like Mrs. Hwang tried to. But Mrs. Hwang was dead. Running didn't save her. Ivy had 2 choices, stay silent and hope Seo-jun didn't see her as a threat, or tell Tae-Sung and become the biggest liability in his world. Either way, she was dead. Unless she did something spectacularly stupid. Detective Rashida Price found Ivy at Whole Foods on Pace's Ferry. Ivy was picking through produce when a woman's voice said, Ivy Johnson, we need to talk. She turned. Black woman, early 40s, sharp pantsuit, FBI badge clipped to her belt. I don't know you, Ivy said carefully. Yeah, you do. Price's smile didn't reach her eyes. Carson House. 2009. You were 12, I was 14. Foster home off Memorial Drive. The memory surfaced slowly. Big house, rotating kids. A girl named Rashida who'd protected Ivy until she aged out at 18. You became a cop, Ivy said. FBI. Price showed her phone, a photo of Tae-Sung entering a warehouse, and you became an accessory to organized crime. Ivy's stomach dropped. I've been watching your boss for 2 years. Money laundering, art smuggling, 3 suspected murders we can't prove. I can't touch him because he's smart, careful, and connected. Price's eyes searched hers. But you live in his house now. You see things and hear things. I don't know anything. You're lying. And you're terrified. Price stepped closer. I can protect you, Ivy. I can offer you witness protection, a new identity, and a safe life. But I need you to tell me what you know. Ivy thought of Mrs. Hwang's earring, the blood. Seo-jun's voice. I'm his maid, that's all. You were his assistant for 6 years. Don't insult my intelligence. You know where the bodies are buried. Ivy picked up a pear and examined it. If I knew something, hypothetically, and I told you, what happens to me? Witness protection. You disappear. Start over somewhere safe, and Tae-Sung? Federal prison for life. Maybe the death penalty. Ivy set the pear down. I can't help you, can't or won't. Both. She walked away. But Price's business card was already in her pocket, pressed there during their handshake. Ivy didn't throw it away. That night, she made her choice. Tae-Sung was in his study, whiskey in hand, staring at financial reports. Classical music played softly. Ivy knocked. She didn't wait for permission. She just walked in. Get out, he said without looking up. Seo-jun is stealing from you. His eyes snapped to hers, cold and lethal. Excuse me? He's altered your shipment records. When the authorities audit next month, you'll take the fall. He's working with the Yakuza. There's an ambush planned at the warehouse meeting Tuesday. They're going to kill you. Tae-Sung stood slowly. And you know this how? I heard him on the phone. He thought he was alone. You eavesdrop on my second-in-command? You think I'm stupid enough to believe you over a man I've known for 15 years? I think you're smart enough to verify before you walk into an ambush and die. They stared at each other. Seconds stretched. Why tell me, Tae-Sung asked finally. You could have walked away. Let me fall. I don't know why. Honest. Stupid. Not good enough. Ivy's hands clenched. Because Mr. Baek has been kind to me. Because despite everything, you've never actually hurt me. And because Seo Jun killed your last maid. And I'd prefer not to be next. Something flickered behind Tae-Sung's eyes. Surprise. Maybe respect. If you're lying, I'm not. He picked up his phone. Made a call. Spoke rapid Korean. Gave instructions. Hung up. We'll know by morning, he said. If you're wrong, you're gone. And if I'm right? Tae-Sung's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. Then someone's about to have a very bad week. 2 days later, Tae-Sung had his proof. Seo Jun had been skimming for 8 months. Small amounts first, 5,000, 10,000. Then bolder, 50,000, 100. By month 6, 500,000 per quarter. The warehouse meeting was real. An ambush designed to get Tae-Sung killed and blamed for breaking the truce with the Yakuza. Tae-Sung's response was calculated and cold. He attended the meeting anyway, planning to confront him there, but he brought Ivy. Do you need me to take notes? She asked when he handed her a tablet. I need you to watch my back. You're the only person I trust right now. He said it casually, like it wasn't the most significant thing he'd ever said to her. The warehouse was industrial, all rust and shadows and broken windows. Ivy's skin crawled. 10 men were waiting, Seo Jun in the center, smiling like nothing was wrong. Tae-Sung, ah. He spread his arms wide. Right on time. Tae-Sung's hand settled on Ivy's lower back. Warm, steady, possessive. Let's make this quick. Mr. Baek stayed with the car, engine running. The meeting lasted 6 minutes before it went sideways. Ivy saw the Yakuza soldiers move first, hands reaching for guns. Seo Jun stepped backward, smile widening. Now! Seo Jun shouted. Gunfire erupted. Ivy grabbed Tae-Sung's arm, yanked him behind a shipping container. Bullets sparked off metal. Voices shouted in Japanese, Korean, English. Exit, Ivy hissed, pointing to a side door. There, now. Tae-Sung stared at her like seeing her for the first time. Then he ran. They made it to the car. Mr. Baek floored it, tires screaming. In the back seat, Tae-Sung turned to Ivy. Blood on his collar from a grazed shoulder. Eyes wild. You could have run, he said. You could have left me there and saved yourself. So could you. Ivy's hands were shaking. His hand lifted slowly, carefully, touched her face and checked for injuries with gentle fingers. Ivy stopped breathing entirely. Then Tae-Sung pulled back and looked away. His jaw was tight, but his hand was shaking just like hers. Day 30 arrived with brutal efficiency and perfect weather. Sunny, warm, and mocking. Mrs. Park, the new maid, showed up at dawn. She was Korean, middle-aged and efficient. Everything appropriate. Ivy packed her single bag. The room looked exactly like when she'd arrived. Sterile, impersonal, designed for someone temporary. Tae-Sung avoided her all day. Business calls, video conferences, meetings in rooms she wasn't allowed to enter. Mr. Baek found her by the car around sunset. Don't give up on him yet. He doesn't want me here, Mr. Baek. He's been different since you came. Lighter. More human. The old man's smile was sad. That terrifies him. He's never felt anything. Ice melts, dear girl. Just takes the right temperature. At the front door, Tae-Sung finally appeared. He stood 3 feet away. Professional distance maintained. Thank you for your service, Miss Johnson. He sounded formal and distant, like past month had been a standard contract. Your final paycheck will be deposited Monday. Ivy's heart cracked clean down the middle, but she nodded and kept her face blank. Goodbye, Mr. Kang. She made it to the sidewalk before the tears started. She made it to her car before they became sobs. Her apartment felt too quiet and empty. It was too much like the life she'd left behind 4 weeks ago. Ivy unpacked mechanically, showered and changed into soft clothes. She tried to pretend the past month hadn't rewired something fundamental in her brain. The doorbell rang at 8:45 p.m. She opened it expecting delivery food, but found James instead. He wore a suit and carried roses, expensive ones. He held a ring box like a grenade. Ivy, I made the biggest mistake of my life. His eyes were red. He'd been crying. Mina and I, it's over. I ended it. I told her everything. I told my parents everything. I want you back. Behind him, standing on the apartment building steps, was Pastor Diane, eyes wet with tears, hands clasped like prayer. Baby, please, Diane said, voice breaking. Whatever you were involved with these past weeks, it's time to come home. This man loves you. James opened the ring box. 2-carat diamond, princess cut, everything Ivy had wanted a month ago. Marry me, James said. Give me another chance. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Ivy stared at the ring, at James, at Pastor Diane, at the safe, predictable, appropriate life they represented. Her phone rang. Tae-Sung's name lit up the screen. Don't answer that, Diane begged. Please, choose safety, choose real love, choose the life God wants for you. Ivy, please, James said. Say yes. Say you'll marry me. Her hand hovered over the phone. She made her choice. She answered, Ivy. Tae-Sung's voice was wrecked and desperate, nothing like she'd ever heard. I need you. I'm sorry for everything. I was wrong. Gunshots exploded through the speaker, screaming, shattering glass. Tae-Sung shouted in Korean, then nothing. Dead line. Ivy screamed his name into silence. She grabbed her keys, ran for her car. James grabbed her arm. Don't go back to him. Stay here. Choose me. Ivy yanked free with strength born from pure terror. I can't. I'm sorry. I have to. She didn't finish. She just ran. She drove 90 through Atlanta streets, running red lights, praying to gods she didn't believe in that she wouldn't be too late. The mansion was chaos incarnate. FBI vehicles everywhere, floodlights, Detective Price on a megaphone. This is the FBI. Everyone inside, come out with your hands visible. SEO June's black SUV in the driveway. Doors open, engine running. Ivy abandoned her car in the middle of the street, sprinted toward the house. 2 FBI agents tried to stop her. She dodged and kept running until she crashed through the front door. She found Tae-Sung on the marble floor of his foyer, blood spreading underneath him in a growing pool. Eyes unfocused but still moving, still alive, barely. Seo-jun stood over him, gun in hand, smiling. Perfect timing, Seo-jun said when he saw Ivy. You can watch him die, then join him. 4 armed men flanked Seo-jun, guns all pointed at her. There was a pistol on the floor between Ivy and Tae-Sung, kicked away during the struggle. It was still loaded. Seo-jun followed her eyes and laughed. Go ahead. Try and reach for it. See what happens. Outside, Detective Price's voice. Seo-jun, we have the building surrounded. There's no way out. Ivy looked at Tae-Sung. His eyes found hers. His lips moved, forming words without sound. Run, he managed to whisper. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth. Please. Run. Ivy's hands trembled at her sides. She had 2 choices. Run. Save herself. Let the man she loved bleed out on his marble floor while she escaped to the safe, appropriate life waiting outside. Or stay and fight. Die trying to save someone who probably didn't deserve saving. She thought about James's ring. Pastor Diane's prayers, the predictable future she'd almost chosen. Then she thought about Tae-Sung's coat draped over her shoulders, eating japchae in comfortable silence, his hand on her face, his voice saying, I see you. They say love is a choice. Ivy Johnson made hers. She dove for the gun, to be continued. What happens next? Will Ivy survive? Will Tae-Sung live? Drop a comment with your predictions and let me know if you're team run or team fight. Episode 2 coming soon. You won't want to miss what happens next.